There is a strange moment that almost everyone feels at least once. It happens without warning. You stop for a second, and deep inside, it feels like someone is trying to reach you. Not with words you hear through your ears, but with a feeling that refuses to leave. Most people ignore it. They call it stress, imagination, or a random thought. Then they move on with their day. But what if that feeling is not random? What if it is a message sent across time by the only person who truly knows what is waiting for you? Your future self. Right now, your future self is standing in a place you have not reached yet. That version of you has already seen the choices you will make, the people you will trust, the energy you will carry, and the moments that will either lift you higher or pull you into darkness. There is one thing your future self wishes you understood before it was too late. It is not about money. It is not about success. It is about the invisible shield around your mind, your energy, and your spirit. Without that shield, every negative word, every hidden intention, and every heavy emotion finds a way inside you without asking for permission. Have you ever walked into a room feeling completely fine, then left feeling tired, confused, or strangely anxious? Maybe nothing happened on the outside, yet something inside you changed. You blamed yourself because you could not explain it. But what if the problem was never inside you? What if your shield was simply open, allowing every low vibration around you to enter your space? The truth is simple. Energy always moves. Some people give you strength without saying a word. Others quietly take it away. Most never notice this because they have never learned how to protect themselves. Imagine your future self watching this exact moment. They are not afraid because of one single event. They are afraid because they remember the day they ignored the first warning. They remember thinking, "I'll deal with it later." Later became weeks. Weeks became months. Slowly, their confidence disappeared. Clear thoughts turned into doubt. Peace became noise. They wish they could return to this exact moment and stop everything before it began. That is why you are here now. Not by accident. Not because of a lucky recommendation. Every message reaches the person who is ready to hear it. Think about it. Out of millions of videos, your eyes stopped here. Your attention stayed here. Something inside you already knows there is more to reality than what you can see. Maybe you have felt that invisible pressure for days. Maybe you have noticed strange signs, repeating numbers, unexpected dreams, or a quiet feeling that something important is getting closer. These are not answers yet. They are only signals. But here is the part almost nobody talks about. Every signal has a time limit. Ignore it long enough, and it becomes silent. Not because it disappeared, but because your mind becomes too distracted to hear it anymore. Your future self knows this. That is why they are trying one last time to reach you before that silence begins. And the message they are sending is only 7 words long. Activate your shield before they find you. Who are they? That is the question your future self refused to answer, and the reason this warning becomes more urgent than you ever imagined. The moment those words appear in your mind, another question rises almost by itself. If no one speaks them out loud, where did they come from? Your logical mind quickly searches for an answer. Maybe it is just imagination. Maybe it is a memory. But before that thought can settle, something unexpected happens. You remember a moment from your own life that never made sense. Maybe it was the day you entered a place full of people, smiling and talking, yet your chest suddenly felt heavy. Maybe it was a conversation where someone praised you with kind words, but deep inside, you felt something was wrong. Or maybe it was the strange feeling that appeared after sharing your biggest dream with someone, and within days your motivation disappeared without any clear reason. Your future self remembers every one of those moments. Looking back, they can see what you could not. Those were not random emotional changes. They were tiny cracks in your invisible shield. Each crack allowed fear, doubt, and outside energy to enter little by little. Nothing dramatic happened at first. That is why you ignored it. The greatest energy leaks never begin with a disaster. They begin with small changes that seem too normal to notice. Think about your phone for a second. If 10 different apps stay open in the background all day, the battery slowly drains. You do not see the energy leaving, but you notice the result. Your own energy works in a similar way. Every argument you replay in your mind, every person who secretly wants your attention, every fear you carry without releasing, they stay open in the background. They keep taking power until you wonder why you wake up tired even after a full night's sleep. Your future self wants you to understand one truth that changes everything. Not every battle is physical. The biggest battles happen inside your attention. Whatever controls your attention slowly controls your energy. And whatever controls your energy slowly shapes your future. This is why some people seem impossible to break. Life hits them, but they recover quickly. They meet negative people, yet they remain calm. It is not because they are lucky. It is because they protect their inner field before they protect anything else. Their shield is active. Most people never realize they even have one. Close your eyes for just a moment and remember the last time you felt completely peaceful. No pressure, no fear, no racing thoughts. That feeling was not created by the outside world. It came from inside you, which means it still exists there. It has only been covered by layers of noise. Your future self discovered something shocking. The shield was never built from force. It was built from awareness. The second you become fully aware of what enters your mind, your shield starts rebuilding itself. But there is one hidden force that knows this. It survives only when you stay distracted. It does not need to attack you directly. It only needs to keep your attention moving from one fear to another. And the strangest part? The first time your future self finally saw that hidden force, it wasn't outside at all. It was standing in front of a mirror. Looking into that mirror was nothing like an ordinary reflection. At first, everything looked normal. Then the face staring back did not copy every movement. It smiled a second later. It blinked at the wrong time. Your future self froze. It was not fear that filled the room. It was recognition. The reflection spoke without opening its mouth. You have been protecting yourself from the wrong enemy. That single thought broke years of confusion. The greatest threat had never been a person, a place, or bad luck. It was the version of the mind that accepted every fear as truth. Every time you believed you were not enough, the shield became weaker. Every time you gave your attention to anger, jealousy, or endless worry, another opening appeared. The outside world did not create those cracks. It only used the ones already there. Your future self remembered how often they waited for life to change before feeling strong. They thought success would bring peace. They thought the right people would make them feel safe. They thought one perfect day would finally fix everything. But none of it happened that way. The shield never became stronger because of what happened outside. It became stronger the moment they stopped asking the outside world for permission to feel whole. That realization changed everything. The mirror slowly became brighter, and strange patterns of light appeared around the reflection. They looked like moving circles, connected by thin lines, as if invisible energy was responding to every thought. The calmer the mind became, the brighter those patterns grew. The moment fear returned, they faded again. Your future self finally understood the rule that had been hidden in plain sight. Your shield listens to your dominant emotion. Not your words, not your wishes, not your plans. Only the feeling you carry most of the time. If fear becomes your daily habit, the shield becomes thin. If gratitude, trust, and clear awareness become your natural state, the shield grows stronger without effort. This is why two people can live through the same situation and have completely different outcomes. One loses hope. The other becomes even stronger. The difference is invisible, but its results shape an entire lifetime. Then something unexpected happened. The reflection lifted one hand and pointed behind you. Your future self turned around. The room was empty. No footsteps. No sound. Nothing at all. But when they looked back at the mirror, the reflection was gone. Only 7 glowing words remained across the glass. They're already closer than you think. Those words stayed on the mirror for only a few seconds, then faded as if they had never been there. Your future self stepped closer, touched the cold glass, and searched for any sign that it had really happened. Nothing. The room was silent again. Most people would have convinced themselves it was stress or a strange dream. But something inside refused to accept that answer. The feeling was too real. More importantly, something had changed. The air itself felt different. It was not heavier. It was watching. Your future self left the room and walked outside. The same street was there. The same houses. The same sky. People were laughing, driving, talking on their phones. Everything looked normal. Yet every face carried something invisible. Some people seemed surrounded by a calm light that could not be shaken. Others looked exhausted even while smiling, as if they were carrying a weight no one else could see. For the first time, your future self understood that people do not only carry emotions. They carry fields of energy. Every thought they repeat becomes part of that field. Every fear they feed becomes a signal. Every peaceful moment becomes a form of protection. Then something strange happened. A man walked past without saying a single word. The moment he came close, your future self felt a sudden wave of anger that did not belong to them. It appeared out of nowhere. There was no reason for it. A few seconds later, after the man disappeared into the crowd, the anger vanished just as quickly. That was impossible. Unless emotions could spread more quietly than words. Your future self stopped walking. This is how it begins, a familiar inner voice whispered. Not through force, through influence. You rarely notice the exact moment your state changes. One conversation fills you with doubt. One negative headline stays in your mind all day. One person's fear becomes your fear. One careless opinion slowly replaces your own inner voice. None of these events seem dangerous alone, but together, they slowly lower your vibration until you forget what your natural state even feels like. That is why your shield matters. It does not block people. It blocks unconscious influence. Without it, you start living from other people's emotions instead of your own truth. As this realization settled in, your future self noticed something that made their heart race. A child was sitting alone on a nearby bench, quietly drawing circles on a piece of paper. Those circles, they were exactly the same glowing patterns that had appeared in the mirror. The child looked up, smiled with complete calm, and said only one sentence. I knew you'd remember. Before your future self could ask a single question, the child folded the paper, stood up, and walked away without leaving a single footprint behind. Your future self rushed after the child, but after only a few steps they stopped. The ground was covered with soft dust. Every person who had walked through that path had left footprints. Except the child. There was nothing. Not one mark. It was as if the earth itself had refused to remember that anyone had been there. The folded paper was still lying on the bench. Your future self picked it up with shaking hands. It felt warm, almost alive. Slowly, they opened it. Inside were 7 circles connected by thin lines. At first they looked like a simple drawing. Then the lines began to move. Not physically, but in the mind. The longer they looked, the more the patterns seemed to breathe. Each circle gave off a different feeling. One felt peaceful. Another felt powerful. One carried deep silence. Another felt like pure trust. Then a sentence appeared beneath the drawing. The shield has 7 gates. Most people never open the first. There were no instructions. No explanation. Only that one sentence. Your future self stared at the page, trying to understand what it meant. 7 gates? If the shield was real, why had no one ever spoken about it? Just then, an old woman feeding birds nearby looked directly at the paper. Her smile disappeared instantly. Without asking any questions, she quietly said, "Put it away. Some symbols are not meant to stay visible for long." Your future self looked at her in surprise. "You can see this?" The woman nodded. "I've seen it once before, many years ago." Her voice became softer. The people who receive that pattern are always given a choice. Most ignore it because they think protection is something they can wait for. She paused for a moment and looked toward the sky. They all say the same thing. "I'll do it tomorrow." The birds around her suddenly flew away at the exact same second. Not one or two. Every single bird. The park became completely silent. No wind. No leaves moving. Even the city noise seemed to disappear. The old woman's eyes widened. "They found you faster than I expected." Before your future self could ask who she meant, the paper in their hands became ice cold. The 7 circles faded, until only one remained glowing in the center. Then, for the first time, a clear instruction appeared. Open the first gate before the next sunrise, or the shield will begin to collapse. Your future self looked up at the sky. The sun was already moving lower. There was not much time left. The strange part was not the warning. It was the feeling that the countdown had already started long before those words appeared. As if every delay, every distraction, and every excuse had been quietly leading to this exact moment. The old woman stepped closer. "You think the first gate is somewhere outside," she said. "It isn't." She gently folded the paper and placed it back into your future self's hands. "You cannot walk to it. You cannot buy it. You cannot force it open." "Then where is it?" your future self asked. She smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. "It opens the moment you stop giving your energy away." Those words sounded simple. Too simple. But before another question could be asked, Someone nearby shouted, "Hey, are you all right?" A man was looking directly at your future self from across the path. His face showed concern, but something felt wrong. The moment your future self looked into his eyes, the glowing circle on the paper became dim, just for 1 second. Then it brightened again after looking away. The old woman noticed it too. "Do you see now?" she whispered. "Not everyone who approaches you is dangerous, but not every smile carries clean energy." The man began walking closer. Every step he took made the circle lose more of its light. Your future self felt confused. The man had done nothing threatening. He looked kind, friendly, normal. Yet something deep inside kept saying, "Do not let him enter your field." The heart wanted to be polite. The intuition wanted distance. For a few long seconds, the two fought each other. Then your future self took one slow step backward. The man stopped immediately. His friendly smile disappeared. Without saying another word, he turned around and walked away as if he had never cared in the first place. The glowing circle became bright again. Your future self finally understood. The shield responds before the mind understands. Intuition is not fear. It is the shield speaking first. The old woman nodded quietly. Most people silence that voice because they don't want to seem rude. They ignore the warning. They pay the price later. She looked directly into your future self's eyes. The first gate is beginning to open. For the first time that day, your future self felt warmth spreading through the chest instead of pressure. It was peaceful, clear, strong. But the paper suddenly shook on its own. A second circle started glowing. Below it, new words slowly appeared. The second gate cannot be opened alone. Your future self's heartbeat stopped for a moment. If someone else was needed, who had been preparing for this moment all along. Your future self read the message again. The second gate cannot be opened alone. The words did not disappear this time. They stayed on the paper, glowing softly, as if waiting for a decision. 1,000 questions rushed through the mind. Who could help? A teacher? A friend? Someone from the future? The old woman slowly shook her head before a single question was spoken. "You are looking for a person," she said quietly. "But the second gate is waiting for a connection." "What kind of connection?" your future self asked. She pointed toward the center of the chest. "The one you broke years ago." Those words landed like a wave. Memories appeared without warning. The dreams that had been abandoned because other people laughed at them. The promises made to yourself that were never kept. The moments you ignored your inner voice just to make someone else happy. Little by little, your future self realized something painful. The strongest connection was never with another person. It was with the true self that had been forgotten. Every broken promise to yourself had weakened that bond. Every time you chose fear instead of truth, the distance grew wider. That was why the second gate stayed closed. Not because you were unworthy, because you had stopped trusting yourself. The old woman took a deep breath. "Close your eyes." Your future self did. "Do not search for words. Search for the feeling you had before the world told you who to become." For a long moment, nothing happened. Only silence. Then, from somewhere deep inside, a memory returned. A younger version of yourself. Smiling without fear. Creating without asking for permission. Believing that anything was possible. There was no doubt in those eyes. No need to impress anyone. Only pure curiosity. The moment your future self embraced that forgotten version instead of judging it, the second glowing circle burst into light. A warm pulse spread through the entire body. The air around everything seemed brighter. Even the trees moved as if they had been waiting for this moment. The paper unfolded by itself. The 7 circles were now connected by a brighter line. The shield was growing. But then, a shadow slowly crossed the page. There were no clouds above. No one was standing nearby. Yet something dark blocked the light for just a second. The old woman's peaceful expression disappeared. She whispered almost to herself, "They know you've opened the second gate." Your future self looked around. The park was full of people again. Children were laughing. Birds had returned. Nothing seemed unusual until every single person in the park stopped moving at exactly the same time. One by one, they all turned their heads, and every pair of eyes was looking directly at you. For one long second, the world stood completely still. No child laughed. No bird moved. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Hundreds of eyes were fixed on your future self. None of the people looked angry. None of them looked afraid. Their faces were empty, as if every emotion had been switched off. Then, without anyone opening their mouth, the same sentence echoed inside your future self's mind. The shield is waking up. The voice did not come from one person. It came from all of them at once. Your future self stepped back. The moment that happened, every person took one step forward. Not quickly, not aggressively, perfectly together, as though they were following the same invisible command. Your future self turned toward the old woman. She was gone. Only a single white feather rested on the bench where she had been standing. The paper in your hand became warm again. A third circle began to glow. Beneath it, new words slowly appeared. Do not run. They are only reflections. Reflections? Nothing made sense anymore. Your future self looked back at the crowd. This time, small details became impossible to ignore. One man's face looked strangely familiar. A young woman near the fountain carried the same worried expression your future self had during the hardest year of life. An older man standing near a tree wore the same tired eyes that appeared after months of overthinking. Another person smiled exactly the way your future self smiled, whenever pretending everything was fine. It was impossible. These people were not strangers. They were pieces of the same inner world. Every fear, every hidden belief, every version of yourself created by past experiences. The crowd was not chasing you. It was showing you what still lived inside your own field. Then one figure slowly walked out from the middle of them. Unlike everyone else, this person had clear, peaceful eyes. No fear, no anger, no sadness. They stopped only a few feet away. You finally see us, the stranger said. Who are you? Your future self whispered. The stranger smiled gently. I am the version of you that never forgot the shield. Before another word could be spoken, the entire crowd dissolved into tiny particles of light. The park returned to normal. People laughed again. Dogs barked. Leaves moved in the wind, as if nothing unusual had ever happened. Only the peaceful stranger remained. They held out their hand. In the center of the palm rested a small crystal that shimmered with soft golden light. This is not the shield, they said. It is the key that teaches the shield to recognize your true frequency. Your future self reached for it. The instant the crystal touched the skin, a powerful wave of light rushed through the body. Every glowing circle on the paper reacted at once. Then a fourth message appeared. It was different from the others. It was written in larger letters. Someone very close to you has been unknowingly weakening your shield for years. The peaceful stranger slowly closed your future self's hand around the crystal. Then they quietly asked the one question your future self never expected. Are you ready to discover who it really is? Even if the answer changes everything? Your future self could not take their eyes off the figure on the hill. It was too far away to recognize. Yet it felt strangely familiar. Not familiar in appearance. Familiar in presence. Like hearing a voice you had known your entire life, even though you could not remember where. The peaceful stranger did not seem surprised. Instead, they lowered their head with quiet respect. You can see it now, they whispered. Very few people ever do. The Watcher. Your future self repeated the name. Is it following me? The stranger answered without hesitation. No. It has always been here. Those words changed everything. Your future self suddenly remembered countless moments from the past. The strange feeling before making an important decision. The quiet voice that said, don't go there. The unexplained peace that appeared during the darkest nights. The sudden idea that solved a problem at the perfect time. What if those moments had never been random? What if someone had been watching? Not to judge, but to guide. The figure on the hill slowly raised one hand. At that exact moment, the crystal began vibrating. The paper unfolded completely. For the first time, all 7 circles became visible together. 5 were glowing. 2 remained dark. A beam of golden light connected the crystal to the paper. Then new words appeared. The Watcher cannot protect you. Your future self felt confused. Then why is it here? The peaceful stranger looked into your eyes. Because there is one law that even the highest guides cannot break. They may show the path. They may send signs. They may warn you again and again. But they can never choose for you. The hill suddenly disappeared. Not the figure. The entire hill. The Watcher was now standing on nothing but light. It took one slow step forward. The distance between you did not change. It was as if space itself had stopped obeying normal rules. Then, Without speaking aloud, the Watcher's message filled every part of your awareness. The final gates do not open with knowledge. They open with trust. Your future self closed their eyes. For the first time since this journey began, there was no fear, no confusion, only stillness. The shield around the body became visible, not as a wall, not as armor. It looked like a living field of soft golden light, gently expanding with every calm breath. The peaceful stranger smiled. There it is. You were never building it. You were remembering it. Just then, a loud crack echoed across the sky. The golden shield flickered, not because it was weak, because something was trying to enter it. The crystal suddenly split into two pieces. One half stayed in your future self's hand. The other floated upward and disappeared into the light. The paper darkened. The sixth circle flashed once. Then one final warning appeared. Before the last gate opens, you must face the only person who can still choose to turn the shield off. Your future self looked around. There was nobody there. Then, from behind, a calm voice quietly said, "I've been waiting for you to finally look back." Your future self held the crystal tightly. The question echoed again. Are you ready to discover who it really is? The first thought was immediate. A family member, a close friend, someone who had always been nearby. The mind began searching through faces, replaying old conversations, trying to guess who had been draining the shield all these years. The peaceful stranger quietly watched. Then they smiled. That is exactly what everyone does. They look outside first. Your future self stopped thinking. The stranger slowly raised one finger and pointed, not toward another person, but toward your shadow on the ground. The sunlight had not changed, yet the shadow moved a heartbeat later than your body. It was almost impossible to notice. Almost. Your future self lifted one hand. The shadow copied the movement. Then, for a split second, it didn't stop. It kept moving after your hand was still. A chill ran through the entire body. Don't be afraid, the stranger said calmly. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is the part of you that carries everything you refuse to face. The shadow slowly became darker. Images began flowing across it like moving water. Moments of regret, old disappointments, words that had hurt, dreams that had been abandoned. Every memory your future self had tried to forget was still alive inside the shadow. It grows, the stranger explained, every time you hide your truth. It grows when you pretend to be fine. It grows when you silence your intuition. It grows when you keep repeating the story that you are not enough. Your future self looked at the shadow again. It was no longer frightening. It looked tired, as if it had been carrying a weight for years. The stranger knelt beside it. You cannot destroy your shadow. You cannot fight it. You can only bring light to it. The crystal suddenly became brighter. Its golden light touched the edge of the shadow. Instead of disappearing, the darkness slowly transformed into tiny sparks. One by one, they floated upward like stars returning to the night sky. Your future self felt something unexpected. Relief. Not because the shadow was gone, but because it no longer needed to be hidden. At that exact moment, the third and fourth circles on the paper connected with a beam of light. A soft vibration spread through the air. The shield was becoming stronger. Then the peaceful stranger looked toward the horizon. The hardest part is over, they said. But the most dangerous moment is about to begin. Your future self frowned. If the shield is stronger now, why is the danger greater? The stranger's expression became serious. Because every time someone raises their frequency, they become visible. The crystal suddenly dimmed. The birds disappeared from the sky. The warm air turned cold. Far in the distance, a tall figure dressed in light stood silently on top of a hill. Its face could not be seen. It did not move. It simply watched. The paper trembled violently. The fifth circle lit up with a deep blue glow. A final sentence appeared beneath it. The Watcher has finally found you. Your future self slowly turned around. Every instinct said to prepare for something terrifying. But what stood there was neither a monster nor a stranger. It was you. Not the version standing here now. Not the peaceful version from before. This version looked older, exhausted, and almost empty. The eyes carried years of regret. The shoulders were heavy, as if they had spent a lifetime carrying invisible chains. For several long seconds, neither of you spoke. Then the older version smiled sadly. I was hoping you would reach this point before I did. Your future self stared in silence. Who are you? The answer came softly. I am the future that exists if you ignore the final gate. A cold wave moved through the air. The golden shield dimmed. Not because something attacked it, but because doubt had entered. The older version stepped closer. I know what you're thinking. You believe the shield will protect you forever. It won't. Not unless you choose it every single day. The words felt painfully honest. There was no fear in the older version's voice. Only experience. I spent years opening the gates, they continued, and only one moment closing them. How? Your future self finally asked. The older version looked toward the ground. I stopped listening. Just once. I ignored my inner voice because everyone else's opinion felt louder. One choice became a habit. The habit became my reality. Your future self remembered all the times they had doubted themselves simply because someone else laughed, criticized, or refused to believe in them. The shield had never been broken in one dramatic event. It had faded through thousands of tiny decisions. The older version gently placed a hand over their own heart. The final gate isn't opened by meditation. It isn't opened by crystals. It isn't opened by repeating special words. It opens the moment you trust your own inner truth more than the noise around you. As those words settled in, the last 2 dark circles on the paper began glowing, one after the other. The entire page burst into golden light. The 7 circles merged into a single living symbol. It rose into the air and slowly dissolved into your future self's chest. The paper disappeared. The crystal turned into dust. The shield no longer surrounded the body. It radiated from within. The older version smiled for the first time. You've remembered. Not learned. Remembered. Their bodies slowly became transparent. Before fading completely, they spoke one final sentence. Tell them before they forget. The light around them scattered like thousands of tiny stars. The park. The old woman. The peaceful stranger. The watcher. Everything disappeared. Your future self opened their eyes and found themselves sitting exactly where this journey had begun. The room looked completely ordinary. The mirror reflected only one face. Outside, the world carried on as if nothing had happened. But something inside had changed forever. A deep calm had replaced fear. The need to prove anything to anyone was gone. The invisible shield was no longer something to search for. It had always been a choice. Every thought, every reaction, every moment of awareness either strengthened it or weakened it. And perhaps that is why you found this message today. Not because your future is fixed, but because your future self refused to let silence be the final answer. If these words reached you before it was too late, then maybe the warning was never meant to frighten you. Maybe it was simply a reminder. The untouchable shield has always been within you. The only question left is, will you choose to keep it awake?